The sky of Zephyra shimmered in shades of violet and emerald as the sun rose over the alien capital. Towering spires of crystal and metal stretched into the sky, reflecting light in patterns that danced like living fire. On the ground, the streets were filled with the hum of activity. Zephyrans in their ceremonial robes moved with precision, their movements almost choreographed. This was a civilization proud of its order, its strength, and its traditions. At the center of it all was the palace of Queen Aerolith, ruler of Zephyra for over a century. Her presence was commanding even to the most seasoned courtiers. She walked through the grand halls, her gaze sharp, observing the morning reports and diplomatic messages delivered by her attendants. Aerolith's reputation was legendary. Stories of her wisdom, strategy, and decisiveness spread across neighboring star systems. Few dared to question her judgment, and even fewer dared to meet her gaze without trembling. Yet on this particular morning, an unusual event was about to disturb the rhythm of her orderly world. A ship appeared on Zephyra's radar, not as a fleet, not as a scout, but as a solitary vessel moving at an unremarkable speed. Its design was unlike anything Zephyrans had ever seen. It lacked the sleek angularity of alien crafts or the polished metal surfaces typical of interstellar travelers. Instead, it was a compact, sturdy ship that carried the unmistakable signature of human engineering. The palace guards were the first to notice it. They were seasoned warriors, trained to respond to threats with precision and speed. Yet as they observed the craft descending through the atmosphere, they exchanged uncertain glances. Humans were a rare sight in the galaxy, often considered primitive. Their small numbers, limited technology, and unpredictable nature made them more of a curiosity than a serious threat. "Who is this human?" one guard muttered, his voice laced with skepticism. "No one knows. The sensors don't recognize the ship's identification codes," replied another. The Queen, informed of the anomaly, remained calm. Her advisors expected her to order a defensive stance or a call to arms, but Aerolith merely watched the readings on her display. There was a faint, almost imperceptible pause in her expression when the sensors highlighted the ship's origin. Moments later, the vessel landed gracefully in the open plaza before the palace gates. Dust and small stones swirled in the wake of its landing thrusters. The plaza, usually a place of ceremonial elegance, was suddenly filled with tension. Zephyrans gathered, whispering among themselves, their curiosity mingled with fear. A hatch opened and a lone figure emerged. He was human, tall by their standards but unassuming. His uniform was simple, functional rather than decorative. His face carried an expression of calm confidence, mixed with curiosity as he observed the alien world around him. "Commander Ethan Harper," the human said clearly, addressing no one in particular. "I come in peace. I am a diplomat and explorer from Earth. I seek knowledge, friendship, and cooperation." The guards hesitated. Protocol dictated caution. No human had ever entered the capital willingly, let alone unarmed. Yet something in Ethan's demeanor, his calm voice, the clarity in his eyes, the ease of his movements, gave them pause. They had expected fear, hesitation, or aggression. Instead, they saw confidence tempered with humility. Word of the human's arrival quickly reached Queen Aerolith. She descended from her private chamber to observe the scene in person. Her advisors and courtiers moved aside respectfully, sensing that something unusual was unfolding. When Aerolith's gaze fell on Ethan, her face remained serene, but her mind stirred with a memory she had long buried. The guards brought Ethan forward, and he was escorted into the palace. Every step he took was watched closely. He did not flinch at the grand architecture, the strange alien symbols, or the quiet hum of advanced energy flowing through the walls. Humans, Aerolith thought, were remarkable in their adaptability. They could enter alien environments and remain composed, even when surrounded by beings who could easily overwhelm them. Finally, Ethan was brought before the throne room, where Queen Aerolith sat, her regal presence dominating the space. She observed him in silence, noting every detail, his posture, the way he carried himself, and the way he met her gaze without fear. "Welcome, Commander Harper," she said finally, her voice even, calm, and commanding. "I am Queen Aerolith of Zephyra. Speak your purpose clearly, for time is precious." Ethan bowed slightly, a gesture he had learned to show respect to leaders of other civilizations. "Your Majesty, I come on behalf of humanity. We have long observed Zephyra from afar. Our species seeks knowledge and understanding, We wish to establish peaceful relations and share ideas that may benefit both our civilizations. A murmur passed through the court. The alien advisors exchanged skeptical glances. Humans were unpredictable, and peace was a word often spoken by the naive. Yet Aerolith listened. She said nothing, but the silence itself was profound. Then came the moment that no one in the court expected. When Ethan introduced himself, simply saying his name, Queen Aerolith froze. Her eyes widened just slightly. A faint pause lingered in the air, heavier than any spoken word. She remained seated, but her thoughts raced. For decades, Aerolith had studied ancient texts, prophecies, and genealogies. She had learned that one day a human would appear in her time, not as a conqueror or invader, but as a catalyst for change. Could this be the human the old records spoke of? The court noticed her silence and grew restless. Whispers filled the throne room. Why is the queen silent? Has she recognized him? Is this the human of prophecy? Aerolith waved her hand subtly, signaling for quiet. She did not speak, choosing instead to observe. Ethan, unaware of the subtle significance of the moment, maintained his calm composure. He understood that in some alien cultures, silence could carry weight equal to words. After a moment, she finally spoke, though still carefully measured. Commander Harper, you are far from your home world. Yet you speak of cooperation and friendship. Why should Zephyra trust a human? Ethan met her gaze directly. Because, Your Majesty, trust is built not on fear or threats, but on understanding and shared purpose. I may be human, but I come not to dominate, but to learn, to help, and to offer friendship. Aerolith regarded him quietly. She saw in him something rare. Not arrogance, not submission, but a courage rooted in clarity and principle. She also sensed a spark of potential that humans possessed, a spark her own people had often underestimated. The guards relaxed slightly, though still cautious. The advisors whispered among themselves, debating the wisdom of allowing Ethan into the heart of Zephyra. Yet Aerolith remained unmoved by their arguments. Her mind was occupied with larger questions. What was this human's true purpose? Could he fulfill the prophecy she had once read in the old records? Ethan, sensing the tension, offered a small, respectful smile. I understand caution, Your Majesty. I ask only for the chance to prove that humans are worthy allies. Aerolith's lips curved subtly into a shadow of a smile. She had ruled for a long time, faced countless threats, and navigated complex political intrigues. Yet the appearance of this human stirred something within her that she could not ignore. Curiosity, recognition, and perhaps hope. Very well, Commander Harper, she said at last. You will remain in the palace under observation. You may speak with our scholars and advisors, and you may learn of Zephyra. But know this, our people value strength, wisdom, and loyalty. You must demonstrate these qualities, or your stay here may be brief. Ethan inclined his head in gratitude. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will do my best to honor your trust. As the guards led him to a guest chamber within the palace, Aerolith returned to her private study. She closed the door and allowed herself a moment of contemplation. The human's name still echoed in her mind. There was a connection here, one she had not anticipated. One that might change the course of her rule and the future of her people. Outside, the citizens of Zephyra watched as a new chapter in their history began. A human, small and seemingly fragile compared to their towering civilization, had entered the heart of their empire. Some whispered with excitement, some with fear, and some with skepticism. Yet all could sense the shift in the air. Something extraordinary was about to unfold. Queen Aerolith's silence, brief though it had been, spoke louder than any proclamation. It was a pause that promised questions, revelations, and perhaps even a reshaping of the galaxy's understanding of humanity. And in that silence, Ethan Harper, the human, carried the quiet weight of possibility, a possibility that would ripple through Zephyra and beyond. The sun continued to rise over the alien spires, painting the city in gold and violet. For the first time in decades, Queen Aerolith allowed herself to wonder, could a human truly change the fate of Zephyra? And if so, how far-reaching would that change be? With the human now within her walls, the answers were yet to come. The halls of the Zephyra Palace were quieter than usual that evening. Soft luminescent panels cast a calm violet glow across the polished floors. Commander Ethan Harper walked beside a guide, observing the intricate details of alien architecture. Every corridor, every archway seemed alive with history. The walls bore murals depicting battles, victories, and moments of wisdom from Zephyra's long lineage of rulers. Ethan was curious. He had always known humans were just beginning to reach the stars, but Zephyra's civilization was astonishing. Yet despite the beauty, there was a certain rigidity in the palace, a sense of order so strict that even a misstep in conversation could draw disapproval. His guide, a Zephyran scholar named Lyra, explained the rules of protocol as they walked. Commander Harper, the Queen values discretion. Speak when spoken to and observe before acting. Zephrans judge character by action, not words. Ethan nodded. Understood. I will respect your customs. As he spoke, his eyes were drawn to a massive mural at the end of the corridor. It showed a human figure alongside Zephrans, leading them against a cosmic threat that had occurred centuries ago. Ethan stepped closer, intrigued. This is a human? He asked softly. Lyra nodded, a hint of pride in his tone. Yes. Long ago, humans assisted Zephyra in a war that shaped our history. They were few, but their strategy, courage, and ingenuity turned the tide. Their names were honored, though over time records became scarce, and humans were largely forgotten. Ethan felt a deep connection. So humans have been part of your history longer than I realized. Yes, Lyra said. But only a few remember. And only the Queen preserves the full archives. Many of us believe humans are simple, incapable of the foresight and strength we value. You may change that perception, Commander Harper. Meanwhile, in her private study, Queen Aerolith sat in silence, her thoughts heavy. The memory of the human who once aided her ancestors had returned vividly when she first heard Ethan's name. She had not expected the same name, spoken so clearly and boldly, to appear in her lifetime. Yet here he was, standing in her palace, unafraid and determined. The Queen pulled open an ancient archive, a hidden chamber filled with star maps, genealogical records, and chronicles written in shimmering ink that seemed to float above the pages. She traced the name Ethan Harper through centuries of records. Her mind raced. Could this human truly be connected to the one in the old prophecy? Could he be the descendant, or perhaps the echo of the hero her people had long admired? Aerolith could feel the weight of destiny pressing upon her. She had ruled with careful logic for decades, yet this human introduced an unpredictable variable, something she both feared and welcomed. The next morning, Ethan began his first official duties in Zephyra. He was introduced to the Queen's Council, a group of advisors, scientists, and military leaders who had prepared for centuries for moments like this. They observed him cautiously, their skepticism evident. Humans were clever, yes, but could they truly contribute meaningfully to a civilization as advanced as Zephyra's? Ethan spoke carefully, addressing their questions with honesty and clarity. When asked about human strategy, he drew upon historical examples, demonstrating adaptability and creative problem-solving. The council was intrigued. They had anticipated arrogance or ignorance, yet Ethan exhibited humility paired with insight, a combination rare in both humans and aliens alike. One advisor, Tyrell, finally asked the question on everyone's mind. Commander Harper, why are you here? Why risk entering a foreign empire alone? Ethan paused, then answered with quiet sincerity. I came because humans have much to learn, and perhaps even more to offer. I wish to understand your people, your technology, and your wisdom. I also wish to show that humans can be trusted allies. The room was silent. Even those predisposed to doubt were forced to consider his words. Meanwhile, Queen Aerolith observed him from a distance. She noticed something subtle. The way Ethan approached challenges calmly yet decisively. How he listened more than he spoke, yet spoke with clarity when necessary. These qualities reminded her of the human who had aided her ancestors, the one recorded in the prophecy. Could this human also inspire her people, as the past human had done? As days passed, Ethan moved freely among the scholars, scientists, and military strategists. He visited laboratories where alien technology was tested, observed strategy meetings where war games were conducted, and participated in discussions about planetary governance. Everywhere he went, he asked questions, suggested improvements, and offered perspectives that were different yet valuable. In one laboratory, Ethan noticed a device designed to stabilize energy flow in the planet's shields. He studied it for a few moments, then suggested a slight modification, based on a principle humans had used on Earth for centuries. The lead scientist tested his idea, and to everyone's astonishment, it worked perfectly. The shield's efficiency improved even with the same energy input. The room erupted in whispers. He actually improved it. Could humans be more capable than we thought? Ethan smiled modestly. Just a small adjustment. Your technology is already remarkable. Back in her chambers, Queen Aerolith reflected on the events. She realized that humans were not inferior, as many of her people believed. They were different, yes, but their differences often produced unexpected solutions. This realization reminded her of the ancient prophecy. A human would appear not to conquer, but to challenge assumptions, solve problems, and guide Zephyra toward a brighter future. Late one evening, Aerolith summoned Ethan to her private study. The chamber was filled with soft violet light, illuminating shelves lined with ancient texts and holographic star charts. She regarded him carefully. "Commander Harper," she began, her voice calm yet deliberate, "you have moved among my people for some days. You have observed, questioned, and in some ways contributed. Tell me, do you know why you have come to Zephyra?" Ethan shook his head. "I cannot say, Your Majesty. I came because of curiosity and the hope of cooperation. I did not know if there was a larger purpose." The Queen's eyes softened for a brief moment. "You may not realize it, but your arrival was long foretold. There is a story, recorded in archives few have seen, of a human who once walked among my ancestors. That human's actions changed Zephyra forever. Your name echoes across time. I do not know yet if you are connected to that human by blood or by fate. But your presence here is not without meaning." Ethan's heart pounded. He had always believed humans were ordinary explorers, capable of courage and innovation, but he had never imagined a prophecy, let alone a connection to a civilization as vast and advanced as Zephyra's. "I am honored, Your Majesty," he said softly. "If there is anything I can do to help, I will do my best. My purpose is to serve, to understand, and to learn." Aerolith nodded slowly. "Very well. Then let us see what you can accomplish. But know this, Commander Harper. Your actions will be observed closely, not just by me, but by all of Zephyra. Trust is earned here, and it must be proven in deed, not words alone." Over the following days, Ethan worked tirelessly. He assisted in coordinating research teams, proposed new solutions to logistical problems, and even helped mediate a dispute between two factions within the palace who had been at odds for decades. With each action, the whispers among the Zephyrans grew louder. "This human, he is different. Perhaps we have underestimated him." Aerolith observed quietly, noting his every move. She saw patience when he could have rushed, respect when he could have dominated, and insight when he could have remained passive. These qualities reminded her again of the human from the past. Perhaps she thought humans were not only capable of great action, they were capable of inspiring it in others. One evening, as Ethan studied the archives in a quiet chamber, he stumbled upon a curious pattern. Symbols and names repeated across centuries, including the name Ethan Harper. He could not understand the connection fully, but he sensed its significance. The realization that he might be part of something larger, something tied to the destiny of Zephyra, filled him with both awe and determination. Meanwhile, Queen Aerolith remained in silent contemplation. The prophecy, the name, the presence of this human, all of it pointed to a future she could not yet fully see. And yet, for the first time in decades, she felt a sense of anticipation. Perhaps this human could indeed help Zephyra face the challenges that even she could not predict. As the sun set over the alien spires, casting long shadows across the palace floors, a quiet understanding passed between human and queen. Neither spoke the words aloud, yet both knew that the coming days would be crucial. Secrets of the past were awakening, and the human, through his courage, intelligence, and humility, had begun a journey that would challenge everything Zephyra thought it knew about the galaxy and about humanity. The night air carried the hum of alien energy and distant stars. Somewhere far from Zephyra, humans went about their lives, unaware that one of their own had stepped into history. And within the palace, Queen Aerolith remained silent once more, her mind heavy with questions, her heart cautiously hopeful. The human's presence was a mystery, a promise, and perhaps a key to a future neither she nor her people could yet imagine. The morning sky of Zephyra glowed in shades of gold and violet. But the calm of the capital city was suddenly shattered. Alarms echoed through the streets, a sharp vibrating sound that made every Zephyran pause in tension. Outside the palace, massive holographic screens flickered to life, displaying a threat the city had long feared. A rogue faction of Zephyrans, long exiled for their dangerous experiments, had sabotaged the city's energy grid. The council chamber erupted with urgency. "The shields are failing," one advisor shouted. "If we do not stabilize the energy flow, the capital will be vulnerable to disaster within hours." Queen Aerolith remained composed, her hands folded as she assessed the situation. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, swept across the room. "Send the engineers to stabilize the shield nodes," she commanded. "Activate emergency protocols, but do not underestimate the complexity of their sabotage. This is not a simple attack." Ethan, standing among the advisors, observed the tension with quiet focus. He had studied Zephyra's technology for weeks, but seeing it under real crisis was different. The human mind thrived in situations that demanded adaptability, and he could sense patterns others overlooked. "Your Majesty," Ethan spoke calmly, "I may be able to assist. With a few modifications, I can reroute the energy and stabilize the shields temporarily, while your engineers identify and repair the sabotage. It will buy time." A murmur passed through the council. Some advisors exchanged skeptical glances. Humans were clever, yes, but did they truly understand the intricate systems that powered Zephyra's capital? Queen Aerolith considered his words carefully. There was a risk, but also an opportunity. "Very well, Commander Harper. Show us what you can do. The city's safety depends on your actions." Ethan moved quickly, examining the holographic schematics projected in the center of the room. Energy nodes glowed like tiny suns, and circuits stretched across the city like veins. The sabotage had created unstable loops in the energy distribution. If left unchecked, the city's shields would collapse entirely. He traced the circuits with his fingers, thinking out loud. "If we redirect the excess energy from nodes 12, 15, and 19 through these auxiliary channels, it should balance the system. But we will need manual overrides in certain areas to prevent overload." One of the chief engineers, Lyra, looked skeptical. "That path has never been tested. If it fails, the shields may collapse faster." Ethan smiled slightly. "Sometimes untested paths are the only option when the main routes are compromised. Trust me." With the Queen's nod, Ethan led a small team to the first node. The energy pulses were intense, almost blinding, and the hum of the systems vibrated through the floor. Zephyrians were trained to handle such technology, but Ethan moved with a calm efficiency, connecting auxiliary channels, recalibrating energy flows, and giving clear instructions to the engineers. Hours passed, each moment tense as the city teetered on the edge of disaster. Sparks flared from a control panel, and one of the engineers froze in fear. Ethan acted instantly, adjusting the circuits with precise movements, his mind calculating each variable with human intuition and logic. Slowly, the energy nodes stabilized. In the council chamber, Queen Aerolith monitored the progress. She remained silent, watching the human work. She noticed something remarkable. Ethan was not acting out of fear or ambition. He was focused solely on protecting life, understanding the system, and finding solutions. His courage was calm, his intelligence practical, and his determination unwavering. Finally, the last node was stabilized. The hum of the city's energy grid evened out, and the shields around the capital shimmered back to full strength. A collective sigh of relief swept through the council and the palace staff. "You did it," Lyra said, amazement in her voice. I did not believe it was possible." Ethan shook his head modestly. "It was teamwork. Your engineers executed my instructions perfectly." Queen Aerolith stepped forward, her voice carrying authority and admiration. "Commander Harper, your actions have saved countless lives today. Not only have you proven your skill, but you have also demonstrated qualities that are rare in both humans and Zephyrians: courage, adaptability, and leadership." The court whispered among themselves, astonished at the praise. Humans were often underestimated, seen as fragile or limited. Yet here was a human who had stabilized an alien capital under threat, a feat that many Zephyrians could not have achieved so swiftly. Ethan returned to the council chamber, exhausted but steady. He knew the crisis was not fully over. The rogue faction still posed a threat, and the sabotage was likely only part of a larger plan. Yet he felt a quiet satisfaction. His presence here, his actions, had begun to change perceptions. That evening, Aerolith invited Ethan to her private chambers. The room was bathed in violet light, and the soft hum of the palace energy systems created a calm atmosphere. She motioned for him to sit, and he obeyed. "You performed admirably today," she said, her voice measured, Your ingenuity saved Zyphera from what could have been a devastating collapse. But I must ask, why do humans possess such resilience, such resourcefulness in moments of crisis? Ethan considered her question. I think it comes from necessity, Your Majesty. Humans face challenges constantly and we learn to adapt. We rely on creativity, cooperation, and problem-solving. Fear does not stop us, it motivates us to act. Aerolith regarded him silently. His words carried a truth that resonated deeply within her. Zipherans valued strength and order, but humans valued ingenuity and courage in unexpected ways. These were qualities that could complement her people's power perfectly. She stood and moved to a window overlooking the city. Your actions today remind me of a human who lived long ago, one who aided my ancestors in a time of great danger. That humans' deeds were recorded in prophecy, though few believed it would happen again. Commander Harper, I cannot ignore the possibility that your presence here is part of that destiny. Ethan felt a shiver of anticipation. Your Majesty, I do not know if I am part of any prophecy. I only know that I wish to help your people, and to prove that humans can offer more than what is assumed. Aerolith nodded, her gaze distant. Time will reveal the truth. But for now you have earned the respect of many, and perhaps even the trust of Zyphera itself. That is no small achievement. Over the next several days, Ethan continued to work closely with the engineers and scholars. He analyzed patterns of the sabotage, identifying inconsistencies that suggested the rogue faction had planned multiple attacks, not just on the city's shields, but on communication networks and transportation systems. With his guidance, the palace devised contingency plans that prevented further crises. During these interactions, Ethan learned more about Zyphera's history and culture. He was fascinated by the alien emphasis on honor, discipline, and collective responsibility. Yet he also noticed their limitations. Rigid adherence to tradition sometimes slowed innovation and problem-solving. In contrast, humans embraced trial, error, and adaptability. This difference, Ethan realized, could be a key to strengthening Zyphera's civilization. One evening, as he reviewed energy schematics with a group of young Zypheran engineers, one of them asked, Commander Harper, why do humans take such risks? Why do you act without hesitation? Ethan smiled. Because sometimes doing nothing is worse than doing something. You can plan endlessly, but in a crisis, action matters. Courage is not about being fearless, it's about acting despite fear. The words resonated deeply with the young engineers. They had grown up in a world of strict rules and caution. Seeing a human act decisively yet responsibly challenged their understanding of strength. Queen Aerolith, observing these developments from her chambers, felt a mixture of wonder and contemplation. She realized that humans could teach Zypherans something beyond technology and strategy. They could teach them about creativity, courage, and the power of individual initiative, qualities that could transform her people from within. As night fell over Zyphera, Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights shimmered like stars and the hum of energy systems filled the air. He thought about the challenges ahead, the rogue faction, the mysteries of the prophecy, and the subtle but growing connection between humans and Zypherans. He also thought about Queen Aerolith, her silent observation, and the weight of her expectations. He realized that the trust she had placed in him was not given lightly. Every action from this point forward would matter, not just for his reputation, but for the future of an entire civilization. In her private chambers, Aerolith remained silent, contemplating the human who had changed her city's fate with intellect, courage, and humility. She understood now that this was only the beginning. Commander Ethan Harper was more than a visitor. He was a catalyst, a reminder that humans, though underestimated, possessed qualities that could alter the course of history itself. And in that silence, the Queen made a decision. She would watch, guide, and perhaps even learn from this human. The prophecy had brought him here, yes, but how he shaped the future was yet to be revealed. The city slept under the protection of stabilized shields, unaware of how close it had come to disaster. And somewhere in the quiet hum of the palace, the bond between alien queen and human explorer began to deepen, promising challenges, revelations, and a future no one could yet predict. The grand halls of Zyphera Palace were alive with a soft hum of alien energy, a rhythm that echoed through the high arches and luminous corridors. Commander Ethan Harper had spent days observing, learning, and assisting the scholars and engineers, yet the air was thick with a quiet tension. Despite the trust he had begun to earn among the council and the palace staff, there was still one presence he could not fully understand: Queen Aerolith. The queen had summoned him to a private chamber that morning, a room few had ever entered. Its walls glimmered with ancient symbols and holographic maps of the galaxy, showing stars and planets unfamiliar even to humans. Ethan entered, careful to observe every custom and protocol, yet curious about what Aerolith wished to reveal. "Commander Harper," Aerolith began, her voice calm but deliberate, "your actions have proven your skill, your courage, and your intellect. You have also stirred memories. Memories of a past long buried but not forgotten." She paused, allowing the words to settle in the quiet room. Ethan tilted his head slightly. "Memories, Your Majesty?" he asked. "Of what kind?" Aerolith gestured toward a large holographic display that illuminated images of her ancestors, historic battles, and a single human figure standing beside Zifferin warriors. "Centuries ago," she began, "humans and Zifferins worked together to face a threat unlike any other. A cosmic storm threatened to destroy Zephyra and many neighboring systems. The humans were few, yet their strategies, courage, and adaptability turned the tide. The figure you see here, he was remembered not only for his skill, but for his wisdom, his calm in the face of chaos, and his ability to inspire others." Ethan studied the hologram, recognizing a face that seemed oddly familiar, though he knew he had never seen it before. He looks like a human, but from long ago," Ethan said quietly. "Yes," Aerolith replied. "Few humans remained in records after that time. Most were forgotten or considered legends. Yet the queen, your queen," she said, her gaze steady on him, "kept the memory alive. And in our prophecies it was written that a human would appear again in a time of need, that humans' actions would guide Zephyra through challenges unforeseen." Ethan's heart raced. "Are you saying I'm part of this prophecy?" Aerolith studied him carefully. "Perhaps. The name you carry echoes that of the human who once saved Zephyra. Whether by blood or by fate, the connection is undeniable. Your presence here is no coincidence, yet prophecy alone does not guarantee success. Actions must be taken, courage must be shown, and trust must be earned." Ethan exhaled slowly, absorbing the weight of her words. He had always believed humans were capable of greatness, but he had never imagined a connection to ancient interstellar history. And yet, staring at the queen, he realized that every choice he had made, the calmness in crisis, the willingness to help, the ability to think creatively, was now part of a larger story. Aerolith motioned toward a series of old texts on the table. These records were kept in secret in languages few can read. They detail the bond between humans and Zephyrians, the missions and the sacrifices. I believe you must see them for yourself, so you understand why your presence is significant. Ethan approached the texts with care, running his fingers over the shimmering surfaces. He had learned much about alien technology and culture during his stay, but these texts revealed something deeper, a philosophy of alliance, honor, and courage. Humans and Zephyrians had been allies before, their strengths complementing each other in ways both civilizations had not fully appreciated. "Your Majesty," Ethan said finally, "I am honored to learn this. I had no idea that humans had played such a role in your history. I want to help your people in any way I can." Aerolith nodded. "And you will, but you must understand this is more than helping. You are here to remind Zephyra of values it has long overlooked: courage, adaptability, and the strength of individuals acting for the greater good. Humans are underestimated by many, yet you demonstrate qualities that Zephyrians rarely expect." As the Queen spoke, Ethan felt a surge of responsibility. The fate of an entire civilization rested not only on his actions, but on how he inspired others to act. Humans had faced countless challenges on Earth, from natural disasters to conflicts, and had survived through ingenuity and cooperation. Now, on a distant world, those same qualities were being tested in a new context. Aerolith's tone grew softer, almost reflective. "There is another truth you must know. Long ago, Zephyrians feared that humans were too unpredictable. That fear led to separation, distrust, and lost opportunities for collaboration. Your arrival is a chance to correct that mistake, not just for today, but for generations to come." Ethan absorbed her words, understanding the enormity of the task ahead. It was not simply about solving immediate problems or preventing sabotage. It was about bridging the gap between species, teaching mutual respect and showing that humans could be a force of inspiration, not disruption. Over the following days, Ethan worked closely with Queen Aerolith and her closest advisors. They revisited strategic plans for the defense of Zephyra, analyzed historical records for insights into past crises, and developed new methods to improve energy management across the capital. Ethan's human perspective offered fresh solutions, often surprising the Zephyran engineers who had never considered such approaches. One afternoon, a group of young scholars gathered around Ethan as he demonstrated a method for stabilizing multiple energy conduits simultaneously. "See," he explained, "if we create a feedback loop that balances the pressure between these channels, we prevent overload and ensure continuous operation even during unexpected surges." The scholars watched in awe as the system responded exactly as Ethan had predicted. "Incredible," one whispered. "He sees patterns we cannot even imagine." Queen Aerolith observed silently from a distance, her expression unreadable. Yet in her mind she acknowledged the truth. Humans were capable of insights that complemented Zephyran logic. Ethan's actions were not merely practical, they were transformative. That evening she summoned Ethan once more. "Commander Harper," she said, "you have shown that humans possess qualities that can guide, protect, and inspire. But there is a matter that requires your attention, a test of character, courage, and understanding." Ethan listened carefully. "I am ready, Your Majesty. Please tell me what I must do." Aerolith gestured toward a holographic map of the sector surrounding Zephyra. "Beyond our borders lies a region affected by instability, rogue factions, remnants of ancient conflicts, and unknown phenomena. One of your tasks will be to assist in addressing these threats, not through force but through strategy, diplomacy, and human ingenuity. You will need to prove that humans can act decisively yet wisely in circumstances where even Zephyrians hesitate." Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of her instructions. "I will do my best, Your Majesty. I will not fail." Aerolith studied him silently. She sensed the resolve in his words, the quiet confidence that humans often displayed. It reminded her of the human from centuries past, whose courage had changed the course of history. Could this human do the same? She did not yet know. But one thing was certain. His arrival had awakened something long dormant in Zephyra, a recognition that humans, though underestimated, were capable of greatness. As Ethan left her chambers, the weight of responsibility pressed upon him. Yet he felt a quiet determination. He understood that his role was not merely to act as a visitor, but as a bridge between worlds. The past had taught Zephyrians that humans could inspire, guide, and solve problems in ways that even the most advanced alien minds might overlook. Now he was tasked with proving that legacy once more. In the following days, Ethan began coordinating missions to stabilize regions of the planet affected by lingering sabotage and political unrest. His approach was methodical, using observation, analysis, and cooperation with local leaders to implement solutions. Everywhere he went, humans' reputation among Zephyrians shifted subtly, from curiosity to admiration, from skepticism to respect. Queen Aerolith watched quietly, often observing from her private chambers. She saw not only Ethan's skill but also his character, calm under pressure, willing to listen and yet able to act decisively. These qualities were rare even among Zephyrians, and she began to trust him in ways she had never trusted any foreign visitor. One evening, as the twin moons of Zephyra cast silver light across the palace towers, Ethan reflected on the day's events. He had stabilized energy grids, mediated disputes, and begun to understand the delicate balance of alien politics. Yet he knew the most important task lay ahead, earning the trust of a civilization and fulfilling a destiny that had been written centuries before his birth. Meanwhile, Queen Aerolith stood at a balcony overlooking the city. Her mind was focused on the human who had entered her palace, the one whose name had stirred silence and recognition. She realized that Ethan Harper was more than an outsider. He was a reminder of lost alliances, forgotten wisdom, and the potential for a future shaped by cooperation. The prophecy had brought him here. His actions had proven his worth. And now, The Queen understood that the coming days would reveal whether this human could fulfill the promise that history had quietly awaited. The city slept under the soft glow of alien lights, shields humming steadily while within the twin suns of Zifra rose together, casting the city in a radiant gold and violet light. The capital, now secure and humming with renewed energy, seemed almost alive with anticipation. Word had spread throughout the palace and the council chambers. The human, Commander Ethan Harper, had proven himself not only capable, but extraordinary. For Zypherans, who had long underestimated humans, it was a revelation. Queen Aerolith stood in the central balcony of her palace, gazing over the city. Her posture was regal, calm, yet there was a quiet excitement in her eyes. Today was not merely about stabilization of systems or resolution of conflicts. Today would be a celebration, a public recognition of human courage, intellect, and the role he played in transforming Zephyra's view of an entire species. The courtyard below was filled with Zephyrians of all ranks, scholars, engineers, soldiers, and citizens gathered for the grand ceremony. The air buzzed with curiosity and awe. Few had seen humans before, and even fewer had seen one act with such intelligence and courage. They whispered to each other, their alien voices carrying a mix of respect and wonder. Ethan, dressed simply but neatly, walked alongside Queen Aerolith into the courtyard. He carried neither weapons nor elaborate trappings, only the calm confidence of someone who had earned trust through action. The crowd fell silent as the two figures approached the central dais, where the Queen's ceremonial throne stood. Aerolith's voice carried over the courtyard, commanding yet warm. "Citizens of Zephyra," she began, "today we honor not only the achievements of one individual, but the enduring qualities that unite civilizations: courage, wisdom, and the willingness to act for the greater good. Commander Ethan Harper has demonstrated all these qualities and more. Through his actions, he has saved countless lives, protected our city, and reminded us that value is not determined solely by strength or technology, but by character." The crowd murmured, astonished at the words. Humans had often been considered minor players in the galaxy, fragile and limited. Yet here was one of their own, praised by the Queen herself and standing as a symbol of possibility. Ethan stepped forward, his voice calm yet steady. "Your Majesty, citizens of Zephyra, I am honored beyond words. I came to your world seeking understanding and cooperation. I did not know I would be recognized in this way, but I am grateful. Humans have much to learn, and I have much to learn from you. Today is a beginning, a chance for our species to build trust, respect, and friendship across the stars." The Queen nodded approvingly. "Let it be known that humans are not weak, as many have assumed. Their courage, creativity, and compassion are qualities that can inspire not only Zephyra, but all civilizations willing to recognize their value. Today, we celebrate humanity." A cheer erupted through the courtyard. Zephyrians, inspired by the humans' actions and the Queen's recognition, began to clap in a synchronized, almost musical rhythm. Some approached Ethan to offer respect. Others bowed subtly, acknowledging his accomplishments. It was unprecedented. A single human had shifted the perception of an entire civilization. After the formal recognition, Aerolith pulled Ethan aside into a quieter section of the palace. The twin moons began to rise, casting silver light across the polished floors. "Commander Harper," she said softly, "your actions have fulfilled more than any immediate task. You have shown my people what humans are capable of. Not through force, not through threats, but through courage, intelligence, and humility. You have reminded Zephyra of our shared history and shown that alliances, even across species, can be powerful." Ethan nodded. "Your Majesty, I could not have done this alone. Your guidance, the wisdom of your people, and the willingness of your citizens to cooperate made it possible. I simply acted where opportunity arose." Aerolith studied him carefully, her eyes reflecting the light of the rising moons. "Opportunities are only meaningful when met with action, Commander. That is what sets humans apart. You acted. That is why I recognize you not merely as a visitor, but as a partner in the future of Zephyra." Over the following weeks, the effects of Ethan's presence became increasingly evident. The rogue factions that had threatened the capital began to reconsider their plans, seeing the unity and ingenuity of a city guided by both Zypheran wisdom and human innovation. Citizens, once skeptical of outsiders, began to approach human-led projects with curiosity and respect. Engineers, inspired by Ethan's problem-solving methods, adapted Xipheran technology in new ways that improved efficiency and safety. Scholars began to discuss the philosophical implications of collaboration between species, realizing that strength and knowledge could be multiplied through cooperation rather than isolation. Ethan also worked closely with young Xipherans, teaching them principles of observation, experimentation, and creative thinking. Look beyond the obvious, he would tell them, and consider every possible solution. Fear is a guide, not a barrier. Courage is not the absence of fear, but action despite it. Through these efforts, a subtle cultural shift began to occur. Xipherans, who had long adhered strictly to tradition, started embracing new ideas, seeing value in human perspectives. The rigid hierarchy of innovation loosened slightly, making space for collaboration and adaptability. The Queen watched these changes with quiet satisfaction. She realized that Ethan's impact was not merely technological or tactical, it was transformative, reshaping how her people viewed themselves and the galaxy. One evening, as the twin moons shone brightly above, Ethan and Aerolith walked together along the palace gardens. The air was crisp, carrying the fragrance of alien flora, and the hum of energy systems provided a soothing rhythm in the background. "Your Majesty," Ethan began, "I did not come here seeking recognition or reward. I only wanted to help, to understand and to share what humans can offer. Yet seeing your people embrace these ideas, it is more rewarding than I imagined." Aerolith smiled faintly. "You have given them more than knowledge, Commander. You have given them hope. You have reminded Zephyra that courage, creativity, and moral strength are not exclusive to our species. Humans have been underestimated for too long, yet today you have shown their true potential." Ethan felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. He had arrived on Zephyra as a visitor, a diplomat, and an explorer. Now he understood that humans had more to offer the galaxy than many imagined. Courage, innovation, and the capacity to inspire unity. In the following months, collaborations between humans and Xipherans grew stronger, scientific projects flourished, cultural exchanges brought new understanding, and joint missions explored the galaxy beyond Zephyra's borders. Humans were no longer viewed as minor players. They were celebrated for their ingenuity and bravery. Queen Aerolith continued to consult with Ethan on strategic, scientific, and diplomatic matters. Their relationship evolved into one of mutual respect and partnership. She valued his insight, not only because of his intelligence but because of his character. His presence reminded her of the ancient human who had once changed the course of Zephyra's history, and she realized that prophecy and reality had converged in ways even she had not anticipated. One evening, during a ceremony honoring both human and Xipheran achievements, the Queen addressed the crowd. "Let this day be remembered as the beginning of a new era. Not only have we recognized the courage of one human, but we have also acknowledged the potential of all humanity. Their qualities, wisdom, courage, and innovation, can guide us as allies, partners, and friends." The crowd erupted into applause once more. Xipherans cheered, and humans in attendance felt a sense of pride unlike any they had experienced before. Ethan stood quietly, humbled by the recognition, yet grateful for the opportunity to make a difference. That night, as the city slept under the protection of improved shields and stable energy networks, Ethan reflected on his journey. He had arrived as a stranger, a visitor from a small planet in a distant system. Now he had become a symbol of hope, collaboration, and human potential. Zephyra, once skeptical of humans, had begun to see them in a new light, capable of shaping history, inspiring change and building bridges across the stars. Queen Aerolith, in her private chambers, gazed at the stars through a tall window. She thought of the centuries-old prophecy, the human who had once aided her ancestors, and the one who now stood beside her as a partner. For the first time in decades, she felt an unshakable sense of hope. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges, but with humans as allies, she believed that Zephyra could face the future with confidence. As the moon set and the twin suns began to rise once more, the palace hummed with quiet energy. The city, safe and united, carried the lessons of courage, wisdom, and cooperation into the new day. And somewhere in the vast expanse of the galaxy, humans and Zepherans alike began to see what could be achieved when courage met opportunity. when intelligence met action, and when hearts opened to understanding across the stars. Commander Ethan Harper, the human whose name had caused the Queen's silence, had not only fulfilled a prophecy, he had reminded an entire civilization of the power of hope, trust, and humanity itself. The story of that day would be told for generations, a shining example that humans, though underestimated, could inspire greatness wherever they went.